How do you like the cold weather, George?
Oh, I don't like it too much.
Not very good, is it?
No, not too good at all. One time ago, you know, I used to sleep out in the cold.
Yes.
Oh, I liked it very much, you know. Amongst stock, working amongst stock.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of Australia, Mr. J.B. Chifley.
Fellow citizens, the war is over.
Australia is such a vast country too. You'd think people would spread out and use the room.
When we walked in here, that was an act of sovereignty. Sovereignty, people must understand what sovereignty is. Sovereignty means that we own the land. It means that we've always governed the land. We've always based our economy upon the land. Our people have always been in occupation of the land. We've always owned it. That's what sovereignty means.
Today in war-torn Europe, homeless people are still restless and on the move. These are the innocent victims of war.
Here's the best health benefits plan for you. Andrews Liver Salt for inner cleanliness.
A pleasant summer holiday can be ruined because you're out of sorts.
The warm hand of Australia is going out to these new arrivals now, London. New Australians.
I've got a song that won't take very long.
A new start in this country of sunshine.
An age of tremendous possibilities, of drama, excitement, and an age in which radio will loom ever larger. This is the age into which we now venture.
Until today, they were people without homes and without a country. Australia welcomes them as they start life again in this, their adopted country.
50 metres.
Indigenous Australians know how to wait, a lesson they have learned from long and often bitter experience. But their latest moves to try and bring the government to at least some understanding of some of their problems is probably born more of desperation than of hope.
Alien, Australia alien. That's no identity.
Passengers, young and old, approach their rainbow's end.
But I got this cute little beach ditty that me and my mates used to serenade the sharks with down at Bondi Beach. And it's a beauty too. I realise that a lot of the lingo might go over your palms' heads, so I'd better explain a few of the words to you.
In little more than...
The whole freedom ride is not so much for the white people. My deeper objective was for Aboriginal people to realise, hey, listen, second class is not good enough, you know? You don't have to always be first class, but don't always be second class. And don't cop shit when you don't have to.
There's a 70% chance.
Vote yes for Aborigines, they want to be Australians too. Vote yes and give them rights and freedoms just like me and you. Vote yes for Aborigines. Vote yes for Aborigines.
The Australian unions will accept Netherlanders provided that they can show evidence that they are tradesmen and have served their apprenticeship.
.46 k's. Not 70. The bumper hits the knee joint. What happens? The human body. 70 kilometres per hour.
Mrs. Onstinck, formerly of Arnhem, is worried about the housing difficulty in Australia. And it is a difficulty which must be faced, because it's a fact.
Our story begins with the lovely symbol of this age, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
Millionth migrant, Mrs. Dennis Porritt, and her husband look out where they'll make their home. The State Electricity Commission has built them this attractive cottage.
Well may we say, God save the Queen. Because nothing will save the Governor-General.
Take any notice of them. They reckon it's all their home country.
Surely they have a right to hunt on their own land.
What's your name?
Alexander Alexandrovich Stalskis.
How do you spell it?
A-L-E-X-A-N-D-E-R.
Write it down yourself.
Dairy. What makes it dairy?
In this day and age, the secret of success is careful planning.
What makes it dairy? This country was empty when I first came into it.
Except for the Aboriginals.
Yeah. What do they put into it? Put in yards, bores, stocked it.
Full weight of the skull.
The Porritts are still newlyweds, and Dennis performs the traditional rite of carrying his bride over the threshold. Mrs. Porritt will spend her days here while Dennis is away working at the powerhouse. But she won't be lonely by any means. The neighbours line up to introduce themselves to a young couple who've arrived in Australia with the publicity spotlight right on them, and who, like any other young couple, will now be glad to settle down in their new home and their new life.
In less than 0.2 of a second.
Australian industry discovered you did not have to speak English to talk to a machine.
Think about it.
The liner Johan van Oldenbarneveld brings Australia's 100,000th Dutch migrant. Immigration Minister Dana welcomes her. Australia is glad to have Dutch migrants, and we hope they're glad to be here. Also on board are 37 Indonesian political prisoners who are reported to face execution when the ship reaches Jakarta. They seem happy enough now, maybe because they have a reprieve. So it's all well that ends well. A new life for migrants and for men facing death. And now is the Stalenberg family from Holland. Mother is aged only 45, and her two youngest children are Irma 2 and Jose 4. New settlers of the right type. The Stalenbergs are mighty welcome.
Oh, pipe down. This isn't a bloomin' opera house.
Ah, don't take any notice of him. His liver's bad today. What's the matter? The missus been nagging at you again?
May I sing, then?
Of course you can. Sing all you want. It's a free country.
Lest we forget. Anzac Day, April 25th. A day we hold in reverence. A day of which we are justly proud. It was on April 25th on the shores of Gallipoli, so many years ago, Australia became a nation, entitled to take its place beside other great nations, fighting for the right of their subjects to live as free people.
No, thank you. I'm a pagan.
And you?
What's a pagan? Oh, it's somebody who doesn't believe there's a divine being dispensing justice to mankind.
Well, as we stand, we are ready and able to start transferring the people from the Tampa to the Manura and take them to Papua New Guinea.
Today we are receiving new citizens at a higher rate than ever before in our history. We are welcoming the newcomers and helping them in every possible way.
Racism and prejudice were
fairly common expressions at trade union meetings.
Beautify your home all the year round with gay cotton canvas awnings.
They just shrugged it off.
Available in a range of
On the
attractive,
excuse that,
colourful
well,
patterns.
these migrants
Cotton
really
canvas
were
awnings
peasants,
control harmful sun rays
didn't know anything about
and will
trade
keep your
unions,
home many degrees
and
cooler.
sooner or later,
Seek
through
the advice
assimilation,
of a
that they would
recognised
understand,
canvas
they would
retailer
come to understand.
and insist always on Australian-made cotton canvas awnings.
What lies ahead of them? People without a country, people without a home, people awaiting a chance to live again, to build afresh their shattered lives.
Each man eats and sleeps alone in his own cell, and has for company only a radio loudspeaker. But in these lonely hours, many prisoners have learned to play musical instruments.
Beware of imitations. Don't be misled. There's only one Senatone dry cleaner in Perth.
Yes, you not kill a white woman, boss. I'm far away. And she killed.
That's a nice looking horse. What's that one, Dad?
Where? Oh, that one. That's Bushranger. He won last year.
Yes, and he might win again this year, too.
If you want to take care of your smile, then you gotta take care of your teeth.
It's a brand new game, our national game, Australia's own football. It's played up north at Darwin, down south in Hobart too. Crazy!
The Aboriginals have established over many thousands of years a very sophisticated system of survival.
Mobile Quest.
Why don't you go back to your own bloody country? Bloody Dagos. Come out of here, take your job, think you own the joint. Why don't you go back to your own bloody country?
Saturday night drunk.
The trouble with this bloody country is full of Dagos. Don't want to speak English. That's all they do. Yabba, yabba, yabba.
Today we are receiving
Some
new
migrants reacted
citizens
violently.
at a higher rate
Loss of
than ever
homeland,
before in our history.
no job, and the
We
anxiety
are welcoming the
of
newcomers
waiting
and
became
helping them
too
in
much.
every possible way.
The Vacuum Oil Company, marketers of Mobil Oil and other Mobil quality products, invites you to hear the third heat of its nationwide search for a great Australian voice.
Tommy Croft inside the furlong, firing. He's being ridden hard out with a whip, and it's 100 yards to go, and Tommy Croft will win it. He couldn't lose it, Tommy
It's
Croft.
a great Australian favourite. Hoadley's king-sized violet crumble
Aboriginal
bar.
demonstrators marching through Sydney have been confronted by a wall of police. Robert Kinney is overhead in our news helicopter.
Traffic was completely stopped as the police and the Aborigines stood toe-to-toe. The red, the black and the yellow flags and banners of those Aborigines standing out distinctly.
A Labor government will use all the powers at our disposal to ensure that the dam is not proceeded with. But in doing that, ensuring at the same time that Tasmania is not economically disadvantaged in any way.
Cowboys after it as Rocky Smith comes in and shepherds off Reams, comes up toward Ray. Ray's a clever player. Will he pick it up? He's about two, and Crimmins came in 12th. The ball ran his way. He picks it up. Slammed after he gets rid of the ball.
The new Elizabethan age, a new era in modern history.
We've got it all together now. We're gonna make it as husband and wife. With our diamond rings so beautiful to show our true love through life.
And incidentally, according to the Herald Tribune, passionate sex can relieve asthma symptoms, and that means that Heidi Slice has got a better health care plan than Michael Woolridge.
When they do get a house, they'll sit down to have afternoon tea together. Perhaps yarn about the grisly people at the bus stop. Yes, there'll be time for that. Time to rest. Time. Time!
Let us say that 3KZ is football. Oh,
it, Mummy. You're so old-fashioned.
Old-fashioned indeed. Well, if it's old-fashioned to like a properly cleaned home...
There are some of you up there who don't want me to speak. I wonder why. I wonder whether they Aboriginal voices or are they non-Aboriginal voices that are saying that. Let me hear the third income Aboriginal voices from Brisbane and from the Jagera tribe, from the people who own this country.
I hate you to think you got us outnumbered. The town's chock-a-block full of stinking shearers on strike. We're just a welcoming committee. You scabs!
I say, Dad, there's a cold down the paddock there rounding up the stock.
You okay?
Nothing the air in the tropics wouldn't fix.
Much damage?
You should see the damage. Bronze, huh? Metal damage. Brain damage, huh? Elliston bronze. I am the Night Rider.
Yaranigindi! Yaranigindi!
For the 3 girls, Maud!
No!
I've been back with blackfellas camp.
No, it's mine! Yes, mine!
Ready? Point to the door. I point into the door. The ceiling. I point into the ceiling.
Get in the dark and the sit.
And we all know how Dr. Khashoggi handles a health crisis. Think of a number, double it, and transfer it somewhere else, cancel the first number you thought of, and then don't tell anybody else what the new number is.
What happens when you're in a penal colony?
That's the way they run the place.
And Botany Bay was a forerunner of Guantanamo Bay.
That just came through from Baghdad a short time ago. There is a great deal of activity at the Pentagon. Officials there are apparently running through the corridors. It's not clear if this is because something is actually happening or they're actually reacting to those press reports.
They'll grow up bitter, they'll grow up disliking the whites, as we all have. But at the same time, the world, you know, looks a whole lot better for them. I mean, I'm...
Operation Desert Storm had begun. We cross now to Doug Weller for details of events in Washington.
In Washington, it is very, very quiet. There are few people on the streets.
See, competition's a funny thing. Depending on who you are, you either love it or you hate it. In the current home loans market, you can tell the banks hate it. They do. They hate me too. They're really affronted by some home loan companies like Rams having the gall to take customers away from the banks.
My country.
You see, banks were sort of like mausoleums.
The love of
They had an
field
honoured
and
place
coppice
in death as well as in life.
The rate of Aboriginal deaths in custody has increased.
is running in your veins.
They've started to steal some of our clothing now.
Strong love of grey-blue distance.
I applaud the fact that they've stolen my clothes.
I know, but can't
They,
share.
in a sense, aren't good thieves.
The White House has no immediate comment.
I love the sunburnt country, a land of sweeping plains, of rugged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding rains. I love her far horizon. I love her jewel sea. The wide brown land for me.
To warm and mostly sunny day, light to moderate west to northwesterly winds and
Dark
afternoon
white
coastal
beneath
sea
the
breezes.
We're all here for Hoadleys.
The hot gold hush of
In the
me.
cities or the towns, at the Battle of the Sounds, it's Violet Crumble Bar.
We're here for Hoadley's Violet Crumble. Here's unbeatable value.
Sandy Aloisi, more Sky Radio News at 10 on 2UE, where you don't miss a thing. A few more will get through. I mean, there's another 10 years of this sort of business yet before things are really on the road to real improvement. It's a faltering improvement at the moment.
This is going to be the usual political shitstorm. Sorry, it's political storm over that.
The need for more Australians is obvious. The old world speaks of the troubled Far East. For us, it is the very near north. Teeming millions are on our doorstep, while we Australians are so few.
Most of the Aboriginal population of the territory live in conditions of horrifying poverty and in environmental squalor, with pit latrines often full and unusable, and which overflow into their already frequently primitive accommodation.
But these people from the old world have many skills and talents to bring to the new. Their dances, their music, their songs have thrilled Australian audiences. With these talents, they will enrich our culture.
John, if you don't hurry, you'll miss the bus and be late at work.
Okay, just taking off now, Jean. Goodbye. Take it easy today and don't overdo things. Cheerio, Betty.
Cheerio, Dad. Bye, dear.
Shit happens.
Who put the flavor back in lemonade?
Coffee's put the flavor back in lemonade.
And what keeps the sparkle in the big family size?
It's the screw top.
The sparkle stays in when the screw top goes out.
Rothmans with their extra length make sure you get no waste. With their special build and tip have a cooler, smoother taste.
Rosy and juicy, nature's surprise, fresh from her western trees. You'll sparkle with every bite, apples please.
Make the simple pen described in November Home Beautiful and follow the Home Beautiful
Come on
fattening
in, the
plan.
water's fine. Then come on out to a can of cool, refreshing guest cool drinks.
In sight, everybody loves to eat. Milk chocolate as a special treat. Penguins, penguins, McDonald's chocolate penguins.
Add joy to good eating with a glass of Plaistow tomato juice.
Sale!
Sale!
You've never seen a sale until you see Barker's sale.
It starts tomorrow.
Genuine Swiss gold watches for 1 shilling.
Time for freedom. Time for moving. It's time to begin. Yes, it's time.
Have you tried Mills & Ware's chocolate biscuits?
Served in the dining halls of the Olympic Village and in tens of thousands of Australian homes. Delicious, appetizing, vitamin-rich Marmite.
They continue to oppress, repress, and suppress Aboriginal people at every turn.
See you drive the new Cortina now.
Scouring, made by the world-famous makers of kiwi polish, is sold in the polka dot packets, red, blue and green, to match your color scheme. Inexpensive to buy, better to use.
Tony Myers, Australia. It's so long since I've heard. Give us a call and tell us 131332 is our telephone number. Our fax number is 1300 30 40 50. Or should you like to get to us on the net, we certainly are available. fortress@aussiemail.com.au, and that's all there is to it.
Welcome to this historic occasion. To our white friends, pro-Aboriginal in their thinking and in their feeling, who are here with us in support, we appreciate you also. It's imperative.
With our country as large as the United States, we have a total population only as big as that of New York. We need more people for defense and development. And today that population is coming to us. Today migrant ships are bringing new settlers to Australia. New lifeblood for our young country.
Act fast.
Electoral rolls for the coming federal elections close on Thursday. Act now, before it's too late. Enrollment is compulsory. Failure to do so may result in a $10 fine.
The more of the person you save.
Carl Page Ford, Footscray and Sunshine present Newsbeat. Last night in Melbourne with Stephen Clay.
Speech.
Daylight saving has been with us a week. More time for people to enjoy themselves. More time for carnage on the roads. Accidents are happening all over the place.
The faster you act.
I'm a trauma surgeon.
Here's something to think about while you smoke your next cigarette. It's taking time off your life. If you smoke, you're more likely to die.
T. Time.
Briquettes for the home, for business and for the factories. Recently developed briquette burning appliances are modern in efficiency and modern in appearance.
S.
Earnest, well-intentioned, good-hearted, young, white people.
A. Arms.
If you need money for anything, then the R&I Bank
is the place to inquire.
F. Face.
Did you know it's Falcon sellout time right now? It is, and you can save big money. The right price at a Ford Fairmont with powerful 3.6 litre motor.
Fast. Act.
You're a popular guy, oh gal. If you make time to care for your team.
And act.
Hello, Mum. It's Graham Kennedy talking to you. From Frankston by the Sea. The age doesn't always tell at first. On page 24 they got the wrong date, so they told it yesterday.
You have to think.
You'll hear the latest, you'll hear the greatest. In a great show, wanna hear the latest pops. Here's the show where the music is tops. Tune right in.
Stroke.
Sitting here and listening to my radio, to the Dick Star Show.
The signs of a
See
stroke.
the range at leading canvas stores and insist always on Australian-made cotton canvas.
To spot the signs.
Hello? Yeah, how are you? I can't hear you. Look, there's no need to get upset. I'm only the answering machine.
Damage is done. The more. Detected. The longer it goes.
ABC News.
Brain.
Hello? Hello?
Fire in the brain.
Get away to a fine start every morning. Serve and enjoy Wheat Bix breakfast biscuits.
Like a fire.
Husband and I both work, so our cars are a real necessity. Mr. Unsworth's decision to drop all the government's car rego charges by 20% sure is a move in the right direction.
It spreads like a fire.
Civil ambulance officers have just placed this young chap on a stretcher. He only looks to be a teenager.
57 years. And this is one of the worst corners I have seen this type of thing.
Young person who's been injured is having a dressing applied.
Stroke strikes.
Hello? No, look, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you speak up a bit louder? No, I still can't hear you. Just a little bit louder. No, look, I'm sorry. It's just no good. Reason being is I'm not here at the moment. If you'd like to leave a message, then I'll return your call.
Oh, hello. This is Peter Jones in Vonnie's house. We're probably out polishing up the old Rolly or something.
We don't want to talk to you because we're in the middle of having a really big party. Now, I wanted to invite you, but remember last time you called us? You didn't leave your name and phone number. So how about you do it this time? Give us half a chance when all the guests are gone. We'll ring you back and we'll tell you when the next fun time's going on.
Hi, thanks for calling. I'm Steve Barker, answering Bernice's telephone because, well, she's decided to do something about the chronic shortage of hours in the day. Yes, indeed. Bernice has gone to buy a 25-hour watch.
But it's a bad luck because we're not at home. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. A couple of days we'll be back and we can talk to you then. All you have to do is to leave your name and a return telephone number.
And there is a white backlash. Society is becoming much more conservative, much less willing to change, much less willing to make reforms, especially in the Aboriginal area. And
Hello, this is the washing machine speaking. Due to enormous staff cutbacks, it was decided that each appliance now has to do additional work. If you think a washing machine answering the phone is weird, you should see what the toaster's doing with the socks and undies.
Mono World, this is John Laws.
And as I say, the starting point might be to recognise that the problem starts with us, the non-Aboriginal Australians. It begins, I think, with an act of recognition. Recognition that it was we who did the dispossessing. We took the traditional lands and smashed the traditional way of life. We brought the diseases and the alcohol. We committed the murders. We took the children from their mothers. We practiced discrimination and exclusion. It was our ignorance and our prejudice and our failure to imagine that these things could be done to us. With some noble exceptions, we failed to make the most basic human response and enter into their hearts and minds. We fail to ask, how would I feel if this was done to me?
Smelly garlic eater, football brain. You just want to take over Australia. Yeah, you can't even talk proper. You're ignorant. Why don't you go back to where you come from? Where do you come from? Australia. Where does your mother come from? Australia. Scotland. My mum comes from Scotland. Shut up. Where does your grandmother come from? England, I don't know. You don't even know where you come from. We do so don't. Anyway, teachers said Aborigines are the only real Australians. They were here first. Smart-ass wogs.
Shameful lie! A shameful act, Terra Nullis. It's an unspeakable crime.
With the European migrant, I think many of them have a mental condition.
Notice, if you will, the half-caste child.
That is perhaps not realised.
And there are ever-increasing numbers of them.
When they strike problems...
Now, what is to happen to them?
They haven't the balance to deal with it.
Are we to allow the creation of an unwanted third race?
We do get a great number of them finishing up in our mental hospitals.
Should the coloured be encouraged to go back to the black?
Many of the migrants, the European migrants, tell me that though they can speak English in the morning, by evening their mind is so tired that...
Or should they be advanced to white status?
It's difficult.
And be absorbed in the white population?
I mean, every thought has to be translated from English into their own language.
Now, time and again I am asked by some white man, if I marry this coloured person, will our children be black?
Answered mentally and then retranslated back into English.
Here is the answer.
That takes quite a lot of doing.
3 generations.
I think that with the man at work...
Half-blood grandmother, quadroon daughter, octoroon grandson.
They're working perhaps under dangerous conditions, they feel.
Now, as you can see, in the 3rd generation, or 3rd cross, no trace of native origin is apparent.
They're worried about housing and about families.
The continuing infiltration of white blood finally stamps out the black colour.
And there's a distrust.
The Aboriginal has simply been bred out.
Of the Australian. And that builds up to a mental breakdown. Some of them are sent back to their own countries. They feel that that is often the answer.
The ABC presents Blue Hills by Gwen Meredith.
It's not what I expected it to be or anything. Oh, I just expected it to be better than this. I don't like Australia at all. I think it's horrible. Well, it's not just because I'm homesick, it's just because I don't like Australia at all. Everything, I don't like anything in Australia. There's nice weather, I admit, but I don't like it. It's not what they say it is.
Newspapers all over the nation levelled violent criticism at the low standard of living to which these new Australians were accustomed. Simple, everyday commodities were foreign to them. And most of the press echoed the warning that the high standard of Australian living was endangered by importing immigrants indiscriminately. With thousands of higher living nationals awaiting entrance, English, Nordic types and Americans, who can offer this country ideas and culture, it is little wonder that this project has been the center of a bitter controversy. Let us hope that immigration of the future will be planned deliberately and intelligently and offer more opportunities to the people of our own stock.
It's not what I was promised, no. I was promised that I could work in my field. I didn't come 12,000 miles to work in a factory or as a truck driver. I came over here to work as a salesman, which I was doing very successfully back in Europe, and which I was promised by an authorized representative of the country that I came to.
You are very welcome as new Australians in our Australian community. We want to see more of your type coming to these shores to help to build up the homes that Australians want and that you yourselves will want too later on. Later on.
I don't want to wait here the rest of my life to get the proper employment. I want the employment that was promised to me. I mean, this is not only for the reputation of the country, for Australia, people having lawyers representing them abroad and luring people over here.
They stick to each other because they're Australian. They might be friendly, but you don't matter. You're just a new bloody Australian.
Keep that in mind! Boy, Australia!
Going on. It's going on. It's going on. And on and on. In Alice Springs, the gong Louis Rock is going on. It's going on. It's going on. And on. It was going on when Grandad was a pup. It makes you want to wrestle with King Kong. It's going on. How 15 million people can't be wrong. Going on. It's going on and on and on.
Vegemite goes on forever.
It's going on.
Away from the cities, there are bush schools for the children, fresh air and sunshine, and possibly even bush playmates of a sort very different from those they'll find in the Netherlands. There are tennis courts, football clubs, of course, golf courses.
The troop ship New Australia brings home 750 men of the 1st Battalion Royal Australian Regiment who've been fighting in Korea. Also on board are 39 Japanese war brides and their 12 children. They are the first big batch of Jap wives of Australian servicemen to arrive. Now the Japanese girls are here as new Australians in the liner New Australia.
It's a Nazi wet dream, Australia.
Where Whitefella Star come from, boss?
What?
Where Whitefella Star come from?
God made the stars, Goggle-Eye.
Blackfella made ours.
No, you don't understand. God made all the stars.
All of them?
That's right.
Come and have a drink, mate.
No, thanks.
Come and have a drink.
No, just
only take a minute. Come on, come and have a drink.
Look, mate, I've given up drinking for a while.
What's wrong with you, you bastard? Why don't you come and drink with me? I just brought you 50 mils neat and dust and you won't drink with me. What's wrong with you?
What's the matter with you people, huh? You sponge on your ear. Burn your house down, murder your wife, rape your child, that's all right. Don't have a drink with you, not have a flaming bloody drink with you, that's a criminal offense. That's the end of the bloody world.
You're mad, you bastard.
How does it happen? You're building a shed or moving a bed.
Stars, the moon, everything.
You could burst.
God made everything.
You sure got a burst.
If Whitefella God made everything,
A big cold beer.
why didn't he make Whitefella some bush of their own?
Victoria Bitter. You know how it happens. You're climbing a pole.
There you go.
Or digging a hole.
They're bloody heathens. You can't teach them anything.
There is all the evidence under the sun to show that this is a racist regime and a legal regime. It's up to the Australian people to decide as to what they do about it, not what we do about it, because we've not invaded anyone's lands.
Yes, nearly 300 years ago, Netherlanders gave the name to Arnhem Land in the far north of Australia and to Van Diemen's Land in the south. And today the opportunity exists for them to find happiness there and to help create and build a new European civilization in still another part of the world.
And what a day it's been.
One word for it, absolutely magnificent. We saw beards you could throw a dart at, zero penetration. We heard from John Coulson. Getting your arm in is a lot easier than getting it out, apparently.
The Aussies and racism have shared an unpleasant but close
Those who'd
relationship.
rather eat an off-prawn than submit to quiche.
Darren Lehman, the first cricket player ever to be found guilty of racism.
Scale breakers.
Dean Jones, who was sacked.
Salad dodgers.
After calling South African player Hashim Amla a terrorist on air.
We were treated to the guys that shut their eyes and go in windmill punching.
Aussie umpire Darren Hare.
Paul Pascoe, forgotten but not gone. And Terry, what's his name?
Who lost his job as umpire for test matches after being accused of being racist.
And of course, the Dazzers, the Shazzers, the Gazzers, the Bazzers, they're all here today.
The miniature
I hope you're watching.
The Muthaiya Muralitharan no-ball incident, racism from the crowds in Australia is also well documented.
On debut, the Manscapers. Tireless hours with a razor. Smooth to the touch.
Murli has been a favourite target with them.
And of course, some missing links.
Monty Panesar got a taste of it.
Performing modern miracles.
The people who dream of dropping a...
Touching moments of reflection.
The Michael Slater incident.
Upholders of a great Australian tradition.
From 2001. Glenn McGrath, Ramnare Sarwan
We saw some true larrikins
very clearly
and some true heroes of the day.
The line.
The men that brew the beer we drink. And nearing the victory now, cashed up bogans, popular at the bar, new money. And it all goes to prove it doesn't matter what banner you march under, doesn't matter who you are. VB, the drinking beer. That's what it's for, Australia.
And England skipper Andrew Strauss arrived in London, proudly showing off the little urn.
Australia, what's your favourite sport?
Football.
Snake?
Pies.
Animal?
Kangaroo.
And what's your favourite car, Australia?
Holden.
Let me see, that's football, meat pies, kangaroos and Holden cars, huh?
Right.
Well, you sure sound like Australia to me.
We are.
Well, then you better tell me again, because I just might forget.
We love football, meat pies, kangaroos and Holden cars. Football, meat pies, kangaroos and Holden cars.
That's football, meat pies, kangaroos and Holden cars.
Football and meat pies, kangaroos and Holden cars.
I think you better tell me again.
We love football, meat pies, kangaroos and Holden cars.
In case you're wondering, this commercial is brought to you by football, meat pies, kangaroos and Australia's own car.
They go together underneath the southern stars. Football and meat.
Makes sense to me.
And don't worry about us, Mamselle. We shall only be gone a little while.
Morgan, brother, come out!
There's a glass on the table. There's a clock on the table. There's a ball on the table. There's a book on the table. There's a ball on the table. There's a cup on the table.
You seem to be labouring under misapprehension that white people discovered this country.
What do you actually do now?
Who seem to think that Captain Cook discovered Australia.
I can tell you.
I'm here to tell you
Then
it's not true.
I'll have to kill you.
This country... This country was discovered...
So you don't really shoot kangaroos, do you?
Explored...
No, I'm doing people a
and
service.
settled
I'm taking out a few roos.
by Aboriginal people.
They're everywhere out here now. Like tourists.
Our people have been here for something like 100,000 years.
Land Rover, you know, was burning down here to get the lights. And then I saw this, I think he was drunk, this bloke. He's walking across here, and the Land Rover tried to avoid him, but it just sniped him, and he flew as high as that post there. And then that lady down there with him, the old lady, she come up and put his scalp together properly. You know,
He was suffering a bad head injury.
Yeah.
There's very little that one can do, though, when a thing happens as quickly as this.
A bottle of milk, thanks.
Low fat, no fat, full cream, high calcium, high protein soy, light skim, omega-3, high calcium with vitamin D and folate or extra dollop.
I just want milk that tastes like real milk.
This tastes like full cream milk.
How does it happen? You're coaching the crew, or printing the news, or straining till you thought you would burst. You sure got a thirst. A hard-earned thirst needs a big cold beer. And the best cold beer is Bic. A long, cold Bic. It can come at any time. You're taking a bow or feeding a cow. Matter of fact, I got it now.
This is Australia.
I'm committed to moving Australia forward. That starts with a strong economy and the budget to surplus by 2013. I'm committed to stronger borders, cracking down on people smugglers, and a new approach on population. Not a big Australia, but a sustainable Australia.
Keep your head together, wear a helmet.
There's nothing worse than being un-Australian. I should know. I've been Australian all my life. And I'm sickened by the creeping tide of un-Australianism eroding our great traditions. Like our custom of eating lamb on Australia Day. Un-Australianism is everywhere. For example, people wearing those plastic brightly coloured flip-flop shoes with flowers on them. What's wrong with rubber thongs in simple primary colours? If I hear another person say thong, when they mean those swimming costumes punchy Brazilian blokes wear up their bums, I'll do my block. Sadly, the scourge of un-Australianism has even infected our national day. A balanced Australia Day diet should consist of a few nice juicy lamb chops and beer, and perhaps a bit of pavlova for those with a sweet tooth. Yet your long-haired, dull-bludging types are indulging their pierced taste buds in all manner of exotic, foreign, often vegetarian cuisine. Chicken burger value meals, pizzas, a number 42 with rice. It's an absolute disgrace. And people ask why we need capital punishment. Do you think the diggers in the trenches were fighting for tofu sausages? No. They were thinking of grabbing a lamb chop up the barbie with their bare fingers, sustaining third-degree burns, then sticking their hands in a relieving esky to fish out a cold one. Look at our national song, Waltzing Matilda. It's about a bloke trying to get a nice bit of lamb into his tucker bag, not spicy chicken wings. The soap-avoiding, pot-smoking hippie vegetarians may disagree with me, but they can get stuffed. They know the way to the airport, and if they don't, I'll show them. So the message is clear, even for you backpackers. Roll out the barbie, ensure the gas bottle's filled, stack the fridge full of lamb, and prepare the invitation list. So don't be un-Australian. Serve lamb on Australia Day. You know it makes sense. I'm Sam Kekovich.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the Carlton Draft Halftime Spectacular.
And he stuck it right up them. That's what you did. You stuck it right up them. Oh, what a bloody relief.
Sorry, television.
Oh, sorry.
Just for a moment. I'm sorry about it. It wasn't a great third quarter, but the boys fought back very, very well in the final term.
Yeah, it was an excellent. It's an excellent win for the players. They all deserve a tremendous amount of applause from everybody here tonight. The way they played the game, we are very much relieved. I can assure you of that.
Celebrating what anyone would agree is a tour de force of halftime entertainment.
Wouldn't make me buy it.
Sorry.
he gets on just on about halfway down the hill, and all of a sudden the car just starts sliding sideways. It's that slippery, and all of a sudden he bounces off the front of my car and goes headlong into the creek here. And next thing I know, I pulls up the anchors and he's in the ditch, and we got him out.
And the best cold beer is Vic. You're leaving a man or shovel and sand. You can get it any old how. Matter of fact, I got it now. A hard-earned thirst needs a big cold beer, and the best cold beer is Vic. Vic Bitter.
When I was in Singapore recently, I had cause to reflect upon Australia, what we'd become, and our position in the world. You can't go to Asia without appreciating what a huge inheritance we've been given. Just 18 million of us, a continent to ourselves. The only nation on earth with a continent. Bountiful, vast, a border with no one.
Hey, you're not leaving that mess for someone else to clear up. Do the right thing. Good shot. Good shot. Rotten shot. Pick it up. Do the right thing.
I fully support hardline measures in response to any act of violence towards any student, anywhere, Indian or otherwise.
Do the right thing.
And furthermore, we also need to render as completely unacceptable people taking the law into their own hands and believing that retribution attacks or so-called vigilante action is the right way to go.
Get in the car.
You shouldn't be driving.
No, it's okay. Hey, Joey.
What?
What's this? Hey, cut it out! Pull over now! Please!
Super right knee. Okay. 1, 2, stand up. That's it. Bring the arms forward. Now just take slow, deep breaths. Hold on. There we go. Bend your knee. Hold on, Katie. Bend your knee. Let yourself down slowly. Okay. Tomorrow it'll be fine. It'll be easier each day. I'm just so sick of this.
And in a patronising reply to Dodson and Pearson, Howard said that he was always willing to talk, but his main source of advice would of course be his own counsel, and he was not to be moved from his goal of practical reconciliation, by which he meant attending to the material disadvantages of Aborigines, and forget about reconciliation and apologies and treaties and all that airy-fairy, bleeding heart black armband stuff.
Here is the answer.
We've brought you a beer.
And we've had the camel shampooed. We've saved you a spot on the beach.
And we've got the sharks out of the pool.
We got the ruse off the green.
And Bill's on his way down to open the front gate.
Your taxi's waiting. And dinner's about to be served.
We've turned on the lights.
And we've been rehearsing for over 40,000 years.
So where the bloody hell are you?
Australia loves a day off. Anzac Day, Labor Day, the Queen's birthday, we love them all. But there aren't many public holidays in the back half of the year. So this Saturday, we're going to war with New Zealand. It'll be up lunchtime, and to celebrate, the whole country gets Monday off. And then, every year, we can crack a beer to mark the day we smashed the Kiwis.
chilling gang bashing captured by security camera is evidence Melbourne's Indian community is being racially targeted. 2 weeks after the beating, the victim is still suffering horrific injuries.
The attack is as disturbing as it is brazen. The gang repeatedly kicking and punching Sourav Sharma, leaping over seats as they knock him to the ground, one even laughing about it. Police deny the attack was racially motivated, but Sourav says as the group beat him, they shouted for the Indian student to go home. Indian community leaders believe these are race-based attacks, and they say over the past 12 months, more than 70 Indians have been assaulted across Melbourne.
Australia is a very safe country. By world standards, we have a very low homicide rate. Yes, in big cities around the world, we do see acts of violence from time to time. That happens in Melbourne, it happens in Mumbai, it happens in New York, it happens in London. And any individual act of violence is obviously to be deeply regretted, and our sympathies go to anybody who is harmed through an act of violence. The Australian government has expressed its sympathy for the loss of a young man's life recently in Melbourne. The police are now investigating that matter, and it's a matter best left to the police at this stage.
The Australian police and the Australian government were completely in denial.
I'm a trauma surgeon, and I want to reconstruct what happens to the human body in less than 0.2 of a second when hit by a car braking from 70 kilometres per hour over a braking distance 50 metres. Even in a car equipped with ABS, the first impact will occur around 46 k's. The bumper hits the knee joint, tearing flesh and ligaments. The full weight of the skull smashes through the windscreen. The neck snaps, the skull shatters, and the pedestrian's brain is turned into pulp. In little more than a second, the pedestrian's body will hit the road with a 70% chance of being dead. And had you been braking from 60 k's, not 70, there's a good chance you could have stopped in time, and the pedestrian would have suffered nothing worse than a severe fright. Think about it.
Don't pull the white boy knows everything act on me, you know.
About Mardale.
Okay, there. What's your problem?
I have to buy my land. Why can't they buy theirs?
If there'd have been a treaty here in 1788,
There couldn't be a treaty, Mr.
then the thing is, maybe that the Crown might have bought its land.
There couldn't be a treaty, Mr. Keaty. You know that because there was too many tribes and clans and whatever.
Oh, yeah, thank you for your anthropological advice.
Well, that's in history. I'm not only talking from history. Right now...
I think you're talking prejudice mostly, aren't you?
Good morning.
Okay, the Prime Minister is here.
Yes, good morning. Just a very broad question is, Mr. Keating, is why does your government see the Aboriginal people as a much more equal people than the average white Australian?
We don't. We see them as equal.
Well, you might say that, but all the indications are that you don't.
But I think that what's implied in your question is you don't. You think that non-Aboriginal Australians there ought to be discrimination in their favour against blacks.
Not whatsoever. I don't see that at all. But myself and every person I talk to, and I'm not racist, but every person I talk to.
Well, that's what they all say, don't they? I mean, they put these questions. They always say, "I'm not racist, but you know, I don't believe that Aboriginal Australians ought to have a basis in equality with non-Aboriginal Australians." Well, of course, that's part of the problem.
Aren't they more equal than us at the moment with the preferences they get?
More equal? They were. I mean, it's not for me to be giving you a history lesson. They were largely dispossessed of the land, and they held.
I think there's a question over that.
Well,
a lot of people will tell you that. You're telling us one thing, and
well, if you're sitting on the title of any block of land in New South Wales, you can bet an Aboriginal person at some stage was dispossessed of it.
Well, but you know that for sure, do you?
Well, of course we know it for sure.
Yeah.
Look, but you're challenging the High Court decision, are you? You're saying the High Court's got this all wrong.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I wouldn't know who was on the High Court.
Oh, well, and why don't you sign off? If you don't know anything about it and you're not interested, goodbye.
Where's Madeline?
White people in this society today who are trying to suggest that Aboriginal people are seeking something that they're not entitled to.